Hi, Rod again, and back with a few tips that might hopefully offer something new, or at the very least, something helpful for you to begin to apply in your coaching right away. Now, I thought it might be a great idea to explore the topic of powerful questions, but for me in a slightly different way. Now, we all learn about these in any professional coach training, yet in my experience, there's more than just a technique for them to be powerful. I am of the belief that if you have just two core skills fairly nailed down as a coach, then you're already doing pretty damn well. To me, the first of these is deep empathic, present-centered and experiential listening. And I'll probably aim to cover this in a little more detail in another clip. Here it's the second key skill, which is awesome, powerful questions that we're going to unpack. And you should be pretty familiar with what these are, but just to recap, they are questions which are open, they're non-leading, they're simple in construction, they tend to reveal and explore something new, some new awareness or a new way of thinking or a different perspective, or even a new possibility for action or direction. They can also potentiate this incredible quality we call insight, and they often lead the client towards something deeper, a deeper meaning about a topic. So that all speaks to the formal structure or the framework of these questions, and we'll return to that a little later on, because I'm going to explore the perspective on where they originate from first, of course. Now, I am of the thinking that these two form sort of two aspects or sides. The sort of one is the technical, it means the kind of how we frame or construct these questions, which I've just outlined, and it's really undeniably important. But to me, the question of where these come from, their true origins, the insightful spark, which seems important to uncover, yet I don't believe I've ever seen it addressed. So most teaching on these types of questions deals more with the construction, the syntax and form. And I'm struck, however, that this question of the origin is one many cognitive scientists from Lakoff and Johnson in these days, right back to the late Eugene Gendlin, the creator of focusing, and they've all explored and theorized over. Gendlin was just absolutely enthralled with understanding the source of language, of ideas and creativity. And he firmly believed, as do now many contemporary cognitive scientists, that this was an embodied process, that our rich, deep inner experience is the fertile ground of all idea, insight and creative thought, and that it manifested and could be contacted via our embodiment. That accessing this source material also requires an enhanced capacity to listen beyond the habitually loud voices of our regular inner commentary. It requires present-centered listening. This is not to say that the louder voices are not to be heeded. Rather, it just asks of us to be able to hear, feel, sense and process all of it. Now, firstly, this means developing that superhero for level 4 listening we've taught you. It requires listening from a place of presence, that cultivated capacity for deep, full engagement with the present moment. This type of wide open, easeful, curious meta-listening potentiates the ability to receive all of the incoming data streams, such as words, vocal dynamics, client physicality, all the visual data, everything, including body language and so on. And to be able to take it in, receive the whole picture without being overwhelmed. Kind of like receiving life on broadband fiber. Present-centered listening opens greater bandwidth and brings a different intuitive system online as well, a sensing system. The embodied ability to sense underlying energetics and unarticulated yet important pictures of client and situation that more intuitively emerges rather than the up-top thinking box version or story of it. This implicit system is able to actually receive and process way more than the up-top task-positive analytic one is able to. Yet present-centered listening also means you have both of these systems available. Now, also on top of that, this type of open, spacious ease of meta-awareness allows the bandwidth to be able to skillfully process the responses that arise within us as well, all of our interactions. We have capacity to take in all the client plus manage all our own inner process at the same time. There is enough space. This is important because this, the implicit, is the origin space of those questions. Presence is obviously key here. And let's remember that presence is also coloured by attitudes of curiosity, of interest, and ability to not attach to things, of having patience, a sense of ease and space. These attitudes help keep the awareness open and focused, while also supporting the capacity to not get caught up in our own inner world or, say, fall in love with a particular idea, to recognise the solution generating or fixing mind, that one that goes, oh, I got the answer for this, when a client's kind of unravelling their stuff. And instead we become able to park it and just to be able to see what else is there or what might emerge. That way we make space for other options and then better choices. To be able to sense, say, the fixing energy inside yourself when it might arise and act before it's pushed anything out your mouth. Now, developing this ability helps short-circuit all of those unhelpful tendencies, even to, say, create leading questions, or to jump into teaching or offering coaches solutions, resources and so forth, just way too quickly. So while we know there's also a structural side, how much easier is it if you can catch these way upstream and make other choices? Now, presence also supports our ability to slow things down at times, to allow for space, even silence. It can feel deeply uncomfortable for some of us to do this, as maybe we believe we need to drive sessions along or fill them in order to create more value, or just our excitement picks us up. Now, this is all a mistake. It generally means that we're operating in a kind of untop or an unconscious mode. And while you may ask technically correct, powerful questions sometimes from this kind of mode, to me, it's those which emerge from a deeper, more intuitive space within us that seemingly land in a deeper place in the client. They seem more alive and connected to the client's deeper process. Slowing down also gives vital space for you to feel into the many arising data points and possibilities that feel important, that are constantly showing up through the ongoing live edge of any conversation. Even right now as you're listening to me, the inner processing that's going on for that, the felt sensing. For you to sense into what seems important then to ask. This budding gem of an idea which then naturally needs some skillful technical witchery to be moulded into a truly powerful question. So there's the first part, which is all about presence, sensing, embodiment, deep listening and slowing down, of connecting into this implicit inner space and bringing all of that online as well as the regular up-top system. So what I'm proposing here is that it's having more at hand that's of value. So broadening out our possibilities and having more systems available. Now next is the forming of the raw idea into something which also lands. Now first the questions need to be simple. All too often questions get packed out with extraneous words or justifications, context, qualifications and all the rest of it. Or they end up stacked, where we throw two or more questions into one, all of which complicates and just confuses the client and actually takes the impact away. Now listen to this little clip that I'm just going to show you where the late night host Stephen Colbert asks Governor Andrew Cuomo, where he actually starts with a small lead in and then asks, how long is this sustainable, sir? It's not the most powerful of questions, but it's open and it's simple. But he then goes on and on and on, stacking more in there. So just listen to this.
Now, I want to talk about the 40 states that are currently on New York's quarantine list, and 3 more now qualify, but they're exempt, which is New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. How long is this sustainable, sir? My home state, South Carolina, is on that list. What's going to happen in the holidays? Are people going to be able to go visit their families? Can I go to South Carolina, come back, and still come into the city to work? How long is this going to go on?
Right? You get the picture? So if anything, see how little you can get away with in asking these. Play with that. If a client needs more information, they'll ask for it. Powerful questions are open, not closed. They will generally begin with something like a what, a how, a why, a which, a when even, or a where, rather than is, does, are, can, are. The former of these invite deeper reflection, the latter. Well, they're great for clarifying, usually only get a yes or no answer, and they just stop the whole show right there. So these powerful questions should also help create new views or meaning or awareness. And one way to say, I might do this, is by asking a client to put, say, notions they brought out together and see what emerges. Sometimes the ideas might not even seem initially to go together, or at least to me, but they all seemed important to the client. And so I just trust that they'll put them together, or their meaning-making system will put them together in a way that I simply can't see. For this, I might ask, so what comes for you when we put all these together? Keeping it simple, giving space, trusting their inner implicit process. Now, if it simply seems that they just bounce off it or come back without any reflection at all, I guess I might add a little more embodied or presencing move and ask, so if we hold it all down here and let it sit, what now comes up for you? So these questions help challenge current assumptions as well, and you might ask, what might be another way we could see this? They would stimulate reflective thinking. Now, apart from other suggestions employing what we call the conditional sense instead of the present, and this adds some juice to the whole show. So asking, say, what could we do, seems to offer a little more potential than what can we do, right? Just seems a little more open, a little more possibility in that. So this is the conditional sense. I also think truly powerful questions touch into something deeper within our clients. They drop them more into the core underlying facets of any issue or topic, rather than just skirt the functional top edge of the iceberg. There are certainly times when our clients are best served by pretty pragmatic coaching, but all too often I hear coaching which only addresses the top level and never seems to bother the underlying inner conditions or motivations. And the reality is, every issue has some kind of underlying dynamics. You may well coach about creating a new, say, schedule for exercise, yet what is it actually serving? What will be different about them this time? What's driving this? These questions help potentiate this quality of insight. Now, this is a radical new way of seeing the world and ourselves, a situation that just seems to suddenly pop into view. Things coalesce. Now, all of these also beg that gift of slowing down in space. They ask this of us and of the conversation. Often the client will stop, say when one of these type of questions lands. You get that, don't you? They go, oh, yeah, that's a good question. And you can see the question working its deep magic, and in those times, what then adds to the power is the coach's ability to simply hold space and let that process unfold. Maybe even a long silence. And that may feel uncomfortable at first if you're not used to it, but with deep connected empathic listening and presencing, you'll see something moving in the client. They may even often, I'll notice that they'll kind of look down or they'll look away. And you can actually almost hear the gears whirring inside of them. Don't rush things in those moments. They'll ask if they need more, or you could even always check in with, so what's happening there for you? So that's my little piece for this clip. And let's just chunk it down a little to begin with. So deep present-centered listening is number one, which allows to effortlessly receive your data and process, keeping you in contact with what feels important in the conversation, and provides the intuitive nuggets which can be formed into this question gold. Number two, we allow space and dynamics. Slow down at times. Support your own inner connection and that of your client by doing so, in your interconnection. You may even request some by, say, asking, would it be okay if we just sat with that for a moment and let it soak in? Number three, as the question makes its way out, there needs to be an appropriate structure and form. take time and give space, and also work it appropriately. So give it that gift. Use this space to create an effective shape, to get rid of unnecessary language. Now, sometimes you may even wish to remake a question midstream entirely when you realise it's just a little bit off course. That too is a really skillful move. I might even say something like, just give me a minute to feel into this a little more and remake this. Number 4, give the question time to do its work. Don't rush the client. These questions come freighted with their own deep magic. Give it and them space for that. So I hope this has helped. I'll see you in the next clip, if not before.